and welcome back to Litigation Help. My name is Heather Hui-Litwin, and our video today is going to be on the concept of privilege in the context of civil litigation. So obviously, it's very important in our legal process to get at the truth regarding the facts of a case. And to this end, parties are supposed to disclose all relevant information to each other during the discovery process, which of course later can be used at trial. But some evidence can also be protected from disclosure under the claim of privilege. But what is privilege? So joining me here is our regular guest, Toronto civil litigator Dan Rosman, who's going to help us understand this concept a little bit more. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me. I've been going back and forth, deciding if I should say it's my privilege to be here. But I said it, so there we go. Okay, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, what are we talking about today? What is privilege?
Okay, so privilege. So privilege is, before we get into it, let me just start by saying this is a very complicated area of law. It's not as simple as just, what are the rules of privilege? It gets very complicated. We're going to keep this very high level. We're just going to outline things, sort of tell you what you can expect if you're in a civil lawsuit, if the issue of privilege comes up. But like I said, it's pretty complicated. Different little things, a tiny little factual change can send the whole thing, your issue spiraling into complicated areas. So I still suggest that even if you think you got it, if it's getting a little hairy, contact a lawyer, because privilege does get complicated, like I said.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I'm going to bring out the big book of what things are, and I'll read you. There's actually 3 separate definitions in here: privilege, privileged, and there's like 4 pages of the different kinds of different privileges and how they're defined. So I'm just going to read the one, just privilege. It says a special legal right, exemption, or immunity granted to a person or class of persons. A privilege grants someone the legal freedom to do or not do a given act. It immunizes conduct that under orders would be circumstances, or he would be subject to liability, right? So in our context, what we're really talking about here is you usually have to give over document, you usually have to give over information, but you have the privilege in this case of not doing so, right? But the definition just means, look, usually you have to do something. Usually you have an obligation to do or not to do something.
Right.
But if you've got the privilege, it means you're exempt, right?
Oh, yeah.
And like we're talking about communication when it comes to civil litigation, usually what documents that we're going to have to disclose or information that we have to provide. But privilege as a term is bigger than that. Sometimes you hear about parliamentary privilege. Right? So like an MP can say stuff in the legislature that maybe is defamatory or maybe is whatever, but he has parliamentary privilege or she has parliamentary privilege. She can say it. She's not subject to liability.
I see.
And I'm going back to defamation a lot because this term comes up in defamation law a lot. I do some defamation law.
Okay.
The defenses for defamation are always under the heading of privilege, right? Qualified privilege, things like that, right?
Yes.
So you usually would be defaming someone, but because of the conduct of your work or because of this and that, you had the privilege of saying it, which means you're not subject to the repercussions of that law. Right?
Yeah.
So privilege just means you don't have to follow that rule. You've got the privilege of not following that rule. And that rule, what we're going to probably be talking about today, is disclosing documents, disclosing information.
Right.
So that's my really high level definition.
Do you want to talk about what the difference is between confidentiality and privilege? Because there seems to be some confusion.
Yeah, so confidentiality, there is confusion, and I'm even a little confused by it, and I think if this is an issue that comes up in your case, you should definitely look into it more than just hearing what I'm saying today, because I'm not 100% sure exactly. But my understanding is confidentiality is not really a legal term when it comes to evidence, right? if let's say you and I enter into an agreement for something, or you give me your tax returns, those are your confidential information. I'm legally, maybe I'm legally, maybe I'm not, but it's your private information. I can't disclose it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just private. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, in lots of different kinds of lawsuits, we have to disclose and provide
Right.
confidential information, right?
Yes.
You're in a divorce suit, if you're a family law matter, you're going to have to provide your confidential bank account information to the court, to the other side. That has nothing really to do with privilege. Privilege is when you, as we talked about before, are in a position where you don't have to do that because of some legal rule, or you're part of a class, or of it's a part of a class of communications that doesn't have to be disclosed. It doesn't really have anything to do with confidential information. Some confidential information will be disclosable and some of it won't, but privilege is usually privileged. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that is a great segue to my next question, which is going to be catching that word that you use, classes of privilege.
Right.
And I want to ask you to just give us a really brief overview of the three most common ones.
You know what? Let's start with the purpose of the privilege itself. Okay. And then we'll talk about the classes, the category. So basically what the court wants to do, and I think this is from a Supreme Court case of Sable. It's not too old, where they sort of outline these again. I mean, privilege has gone on for hundreds of years, but this is where they've sort of talked about it again. You're under the obligation in a civil litigation to disclose all relevant material, right? Yeah. Unless it's privileged. So why do we have that unless it's privileged? Well, the law says that while it's very important to get to the bottom of a civil litigation matter, it's very important to get to the justice. There's other competing, priorities that society has, right? That we don't want getting to that resolution, the judicial resolution, to interfere with, right? We don't want to interfere with, in criminal matters, the husband and wife or marital relationships. We don't want it to get interfere with doctor-patient relationships. And we really don't want it to interfere with lawyer-client relationships, right? So if you're getting, the state is coming after you, you've been charged with a criminal matter, criminal offense, or you are just in a civil lawsuit, maintain as a society your confidence in talking to your lawyer, bouncing ideas off your lawyer, emailing your lawyer, writing letters to your lawyer, and your lawyer writing to you. We want to maintain that relationship. We want to maintain the confidence that you have in that relationship, in your lawyer, that it's not going to become a problem for you. Now, there are exceptions to this. If it's in furtherance of a crime, if you're asking your lawyer, like, how do I get away with this crime? Or if it's if someone's life's at stake or things like that, then it's wait. But if you're just saying, okay, I robbed the bank, lawyer, or maybe I would settle my case for $1 million, lawyer, that's privileged. It does not have to be disclosed because it's technically relevant stuff. If you write an email to your lawyer saying a bunch of stuff about the case, it's relevant, right? I mean, but it's privileged. So that's what that is, right? That's the solicitor-client. And the reason we do that is because society says that the relationship with the lawyer, your confidence in your lawyer, is more important than just getting to the heart of the case, right?
Right, okay.
So that's solicitor-client. Let's move now to litigation privilege.
Yes.